Today we're going to be learning about genetic variation. This is our introduction to later when we're learning about asexual reproduction. However, right now we're going to be learning about different types of genetic variation. So, I want you to write this down. Genetic variation is differences in the genetic makeup of individuals in a population. So these are all fancy words for the fact that all of us have different genes. We are in a population and all of us have different genes. So our genetic makeup is different. So there are several ways to cause genetic variation in organisms. The first way is mutations. The second way is gene flow. The third way is non-random mating. There are other ways, but these are the first three specific ones that we learn about with genetic variation. So a mutation, which was substitution, insertion, or deletion, is something that causes a change in the DNA sequence. And remember, DNA is read in groups of 3. Here's an example of mutation. So if we have our original sentence, she has 1 cat. With substitution, so we have the substitution, deletion, insertion. In substitution, we put in this letter. Now, I can still read that sentence pretty clearly, right? It makes a little bit of sense, but it's like a typo. I can still see the main point. Blank has 1 cat. So substitution isn't that dangerous. But deletion and insertion are. Here, I deleted a letter, that H. And now, can I even read that sentence? Not very well. I can't tell the original sentence. I would never be able to guess that original sentence was she has 1 cat. And then with insertion, I put in a letter. I would still never be able to guess that she has 1 cat. So that's why we see this. It can be dangerous. The next way is gene flow. With gene flow, it's also known as migration. Organisms move to a new area and join a new population introducing different genes. So you're going to copy this down. Here's an example of gene flow. If I have this population of blue animals and this population of black animals, and some of the blue move over, it's going to cause some genetic variation. Then I'm going to have some black creatures, some blue, and some darker blue. It's going to cause this genetic variation because I'm adding new genes into a population. The last one is non-random mating. This is when organisms intentionally pick a partner for their traits. So, for example, we'll see it on the next slide. It's when you decide on purpose what to pick. It's when you decide on purpose what to pick. An example of this would be picking someone who was blonde or brunette, and it's going to influence the genetics of the child. So this is called bottlenecking. Essentially what that means, look at this population in the beginning. There's a lot of yellow. It's pretty diverse, right? There's a lot of yellow, but there's some reds and some greens, but a lot of yellow. But then I take my bottle and I pour it out, and only these colors pop out of my bottle. I'm only left with that 1 yellow and a ton of red. So look at the end. My new population is mostly red. The way that bottlenecking happens is by certain catastrophes that will kill off just haphazardly all of a certain kind. There's all sorts of different things. So bottlenecking is just because it only lets out a tiny bit, and that new population then creates a bigger population. And as we can see, it is now completely different, right? Because of a catastrophe that bottlenecked it, because we've only ended up with mostly reds instead of that mostly yellows. Just by luck, you end up with a new population. There's geographic isolation. This is when a species is separated by land or water and causes genetic changes. For example, here are some nice little deer. But what happens is their habitat had a lot of rainfall, and it caused this little river to come between them. And oh no, those deers got separated by this river. What was a big population of deer has now split into this group and this group. And we're going to come back to this later. But one of the groups of deer is now darker colored to match the forest, to blend in. The other one is lighter colored because it's in the open part of the forest. So this caused differentiation because of geographic isolation. Can those 2 deer get to each other? No. So they can't mate, so it causes more and more spread. Very similar to bottlenecking. Then we've got natural selection. This is when nature impacts a species' genetics and phenotype. Again, very similar to bottlenecking. Here, the evolution of the peppered moth is an evolutionary instance of directional color change in the moth population as a consequence of the air pollution during the Industrial Revolution. The frequency of dark color moths increased at that time as an example of industrial melanism. So what happened is, during the Industrial Revolution, we created a lot of smoke because of all of the machines. So everything turned dark and ashy. Beforehand, we made things and we didn't pollute our planet. So we used to have white moths that would blend into the white birch trees. But now these trees got covered in ash and in soot. Which moth is harder to see here? Which moth, Sean? The black one. You can barely even see it. You have to look pretty close. So if you were a bird and you were hungry, what moth are you going to eat? What moth, Sean? The white one, because you see that. I don't see that black one. I'm just going to go right in and swoop up that white one. And if all of the white moths get eaten, the black moths make more black moth babies, make more black moth babies, make more black moth babies. Similarly here, here's a population of mice, and they're on a dark background. But the bird can easily see these light-colored mice, so it's going to eat those instead. And look, it ate so many of the mice that now mostly black mice are left, and then by the next generation, it's mostly black mice. As such, here, there are two different colors. Once again, the ones that blend into the forest floor, don't get eaten as fast, are able to make more babies. The babies take after the parents, and then they all blend in. And our last slide here. This was an interesting event. A population of rabbits started with all black rabbits. Then suddenly, a mutation happened. It made that rabbit light. And guess what? That one got eaten. Here, same thing. We have that one white rabbit and all of these black ones. That mutation that caused that white rabbit ended up helping that white rabbit. So mutations can either help or hurt. It is neither one nor the other. They either help or hurt or are neutral. Congratulations, that's your lesson on introductory genetic variation.